Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Retirement for Wednesday, the 5th of February, in the year 2025.
I'll do the call to order. Okay. Thank you. This meeting is an emergency teleconference meeting under Government Code Section 54953E due to the Governor's proclamations of emergency relating to the Eaton fire and the board's determination of the January 15th meeting. This meeting is being held virtually and in person, so I will do a roll call of the trustees to confirm attendance. Mr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Here.
Ms. Langton?
Here.
Mr. Razzo?
Here.
Mr.
Here.
Green?
Here.
Mr. Rue?
Present.
Mr. Oakham?
Here.
Mr. Moore? Mr. Moore? You're
Here.
Very good. Thank you. Mr.
Okay.
Kehoe?
Present.
Chair Robbins?
I'm here.
Staff participating in the meeting includes CEO Santos Kremen, Deputy CEO Louis Lugo, Assistant Executive Officers JJ Popowich and Laura Guglielmo, CIO John Grable, Chief Counsel Stephen Rice, Senior Staff Counsel Allison Barrett, Frank Boyd, and Jean Kim, Legislative Affairs Officer Barry Liu, LACERA's Medical Advisor Dr. Glenn Arisman. Staff and managers participating today include Carly Natoya, Kathy Delino, Chat Aronde, Ricky Contreras, Ted Granger, Cassandra Smith, Louis Gittins, Vincent Lim, Tamara Caldwell, Tatiana Bayer, and Zach Meth. Trustees, please use the raise your hand Zoom option to be placed in the queue. At this time, we ask all meeting participants to mute their mics until you are ready to speak. And now we may proceed with the agenda.
Thank you very much. I'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. JP, would you like to do the honors?
Going to be reciting our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. First item is going to be getting caught up from last month, where we didn't do this last month for a myriad of reasons. And that's the elections of the committee members. And we have one to elect to the JOGC, and then we have 3 that we need to elect to the Audit, Compliance, Risk, and Ethics Committee, which is new to me, and I was trying to figure out what this acronym was because it's only been in existence for a couple months. So anyway, so we have to elect a trustee to the JOGC. So would somebody like to nominate someone? Nobody wants to jump forward. And Sean, you want to nominate somebody to JOGC?
I'll nominate Mr. Rue, if you're not already on it.
Mr. Rue's been nominated. Are there any other nominations to the JOGC? Seeing none, we can close the nominations and vote. Actually, we don't even have to vote. Mr. Rue, congratulations. You are now on the JOGC. You can suffer with the rest of us.
Sean, did I smile a little too much? Is that?
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, now we need to nominate and elect 3 to the other committee. So who's on that committee right now?
Ex officio
Hmm?
only. Only the ex officio.
Okay, so the only person on that committee right now is Elizabeth. So we need 3 people.
I nominate myself. I nominate myself.
Okay, there's one.
I nominate Mr. Moore.
That's 2. Mr. Moore.
And Mr. Moore is nominated.
I'll
And,
nominate Mr. Green.
and Mr. Green is nominated. So we have 3 nominated. Are there any more nominations? Seeing none, we have 3 that are elected. Thank you very much.
Wasn't so painful.
Thanks for jumping into the fire.
No, with one change.
Okay, the next motion is the approval of the minutes of the last month's meeting, and there's already, Mr. Kehoe pointed out to make a change. That change has been reflected So I'll need a motion to approve the minutes with the change.
I'll move.
I second.
Any other changes, any other questions?
What was the
Here's
change?
just about the title.
The change is to update the alternate trustees to reflect only alternates. So instead of alternate safety and alternate retired, it'll reflect alternates.
Lightweight stuff.
Okay. Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Ms. Langton,
Yes.
Ms. Ginsburg,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Moore, Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Oakham,
Aye.
Chair Robbins.
I'm an aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Item 5, public comment. Now's the time for anyone from the public wishing to address the board to do so. We don't have anybody live in the building here, and we don't have any other requests.
Correct.
So we can move on. Executive update, item 6, LACERA All-Stars, JJ.
Thank you very much, Chair Robbins, and good morning, trustees. I've got a couple of things to do this morning, if you all don't mind, but we'll start with the All-Stars. So this is each month we take a moment to recognize LACERA staff members who have gone above and beyond. They've been nominated by their fellow members, and they're nominated for helping each other out or helping our members out. And so this month we have 4 All-Stars: Amy Lim, Deanna Hernandez, Sandra Sanchez, and Maria Cervantes. So thank you very much for all that you do. Next, we have one retiree, LACERA retiree this month that I'd like to recognize before we get to the spotlight. And that's Joanne from our QA group. Sorry, one moment, I apologize. Excuse me. Anyways, Joanne has been with us for 15 years. I lost my place, and I hate when I lose my place. Became a LACERA member in 2010, and she's worked in benefits. She's reached the level of a retirement benefit specialist 3 in benefits before she transferred to quality assurance in 2015. And while there, she's distinguished herself by participating in special projects such as the Expediter Project and the 1996 Cleanup Project, which was quite an effort for us. She's reached the level of QA2 in our QA division. She's conducted audits and training and service for member operations group. And she's an expert in training introduction to benefit resources, redeposits, reciprocity, general to safety. More recently, she's been participating in QA efforts to upgrade QA's training technology using on-demand online video presentations. And Joanne has been a valuable team member and player in benefits in QA and over the last 15 years. And while we are going to miss her pleasant demeanor and her positive attitude and her knowledge and experience, she certainly deserves the best in her retirement, and wish her best in retirement. So thank you very much. All right, with that, now we'll move on to one other recognition. Well, we'll do that part of the CEO report. Let's move on to the spotlight, if we may. So I'll get to that. So the member spotlight is a way for LACERA to recognize the public servants that care for the constituents of Los Angeles County. It's also an opportunity for all of us to reflect on why we do what we do and why we serve our members as we do, as we empower them to enjoy a healthy and secure retirement. And so this month, we recognize Ann Ned Campo, who is a children's social worker in the Department of Children and Family Services. She has been with the county for 21 years. She has dedicated her life to looking after others and caring for the well-being of children, and that's a very noble cause to do. And she is, her proudest accomplishment is earning her master's degree. And she's not ready to retire yet. She's been with us for about another 8 years, but she's looking forward to retiring one day, and dancing, and reading, and watching documentaries. So we thank Ann Ned Campo for her service. And then if we can move on to, I guess we'll begin the CEO report, but as part of that, I have some more recognitions we'd like to do. You know, the fires have been incredibly impactful and devastating for so many in our community throughout the county. And all the dedicated public servants have been giving their all to protect as many of us as they can and continue to give their all as we begin the process of rebuilding. And so at the same time, many of our LACERA members and our extended county family were also impacted by the fires. And it's during these times that we must all come together to help each other. And we'd like to take a few moments to recognize some dedicated LACERA staff who have risen to that challenge. So first, our employee council team. They reached out to impacted LACERA staff to check on their well-being and their needs after the fires, the destructive fires. They then worked immediately to create an internal SharePoint site to centralize information for LACERA staff on how they could assist our staff and who had lost so much. They also coordinated disseminating links for fundraising sites set up for the staff and ways to give directly to the impacted staff. So it's important to recognize some of these staff were also temporarily displaced themselves. So some of these people had been evacuated, and while they were evacuated, working remotely, they're still working to help each other. And that's really something when you think about it. So please join me in recognizing our ECT officers, Alec Ochoa, Kenneth Rios, Carlo Quesada, and Daniela Mendoza, as well as other staff members who worked to process donations. And when I say donations, we had a ton of donated personal items, clothing, and other things which we made available to our staff. So Keenan Holder, Crystal Castaneda, Selena Gonzalez, Emily Shen, Lily Hu, Christopher Carlin, Bertha Vargas, Veronica E. Martinez, and Jonathan Sosa. Together, this group and everybody in LACERA raised over $1,000 in monetary and card donations for our staff, as well as clothing and, as I said, household items. They collected so much that they were also able to take what wasn't used and share that with our county employees, which leads me into the second part of our response update to the LA County fires. And that is coordinating with the county to pull together a employee assistance event here at LACERA. And so the Department of Human Resources reached out to me and asked if we had some space, if we can house this event where they would have representatives from different county departments like the Department of Health, Mental Services. They also arranged for FEMA to be here and a couple other outside agencies. And on January 30th, we held that event. We welcomed over 51 county employees to LACERA where they got services from all of these different agencies, as well as ourselves. Many of those employees took the time to sit down and talk to our benefit specialists. I hear one of them might even be considering retiring. So, you know, it was a very successful event. It is important for me to say that we coordinated this in record time. Within days of the county calling me, we had figured out a location. We had some open space on the second floor. We used that. We configured it to meet their needs, made sure that we you know, got everybody access and what they needed and Wi-Fi and just everything. And so it took a village to do that. And so if you'll permit me, let me just recognize those folks. Arturo Guzman, Dean Inoue, Jonathan Sosa, Veronica E. Martinez, Luis Alvarez, James Beasley, Stephanie Ortega, John Slattery, Maria Calderon, Pelin Oguzo, Alan Wu, Christopher Lundberg, Simon Gaskill, and Kenny Cicilito. They were all here and helping out on that day, but we're not done. On February 4th and 6th, we're doing an event, or excuse me, on February 4th and 6th, we did events elsewhere in the county for them. Edwin Tom, Wendy Palmer, Beatrice Dare, and Jonah Aguiano did those events. We are planning another event here for the county employees on the 12th. That's looking like what the date's going to be. And then we're also working to do something similar for our retired members. We recognize that we have a lot of retirees in that area. So in the impacted areas, there's more than one area. And so we are working feverishly to put that together to get an event for retirees as well. As soon as we have a confirmed date on that, I'll share it with the trustees and we'll let you know. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
One quick question, JJ.
Yes,
I think at our meeting last month, this information was shared, but do we have any active employees here at LACERA who lost their homes?
We do.
And do you know what that count is?
7.
7?
7.
And then do we have a number on our retirees that are LACERA retirees that were displaced by the fire?
We don't have a number that were displaced. We know that there was something about I believe it's around 1,553 LACERA members that are in those zones. 22 or 29 of them are retirees that were receiving payment by check. Just as a reminder, we had immediately reached out to them, got in contact with all of them to make sure that they could still receive their benefit payments. That was a very successful effort. But I don't have a number of actual people that have lost homes.
Okay. I was just curious, so.
That was going to be my question as well, Les, and it's something that I would encourage LACERA to do. I think the DIMS data is available, so that would show what houses are damaged or destroyed, and you can correlate that with the addresses in the area and be able to identify which potential members have lost homes. So might be a good exercise for LACERA to do, so we have a good solid number.
We'll do that.
Thank you. And we're now on to the CEO's report. Louis?
Yes. Again, thank you, Mr. Popowich. Thank you. And good morning, Chair Robbins, trustees. And we are, as JJ mentioned, working collaboratively, and Trustee Kehoe, RELAC is doing their database with some of those address lookups, and we'll correlate that with our respective retiree list as well. A couple of operational and administrative updates on the LACERA side. We're at mid-year for the fiscal year. Just wanted to provide and highlight some of the numbers out of our CEO report. To date, we've serviced over 7,000 member service center appointments, both in person and virtually. And that's going to continue to ascend up as we close into our busy month of March and thereafter. So again, appreciate the efforts from our member service team. High scores both in person and virtual in terms of member satisfaction. As well as that, in terms of our outreach efforts, we have our webinars that have kicked in for new member orientation, as well as our webinars for pre-retirement. We've done about 1,500, the team has, as well as nearly 1,000 pre-retirement webinars, and the satisfaction scores are in the 90s. So again, appreciate the efforts of our member operations group, as well as our member service center team members. Organizationally, our vacancy rate still hovers around 19%, slightly less than the 20% that we've reported over the last several months. I know we're hard at work. That still continues to be our priority within HR and within the other divisions as it relates to getting our talent onboarded. We're happy towards the end of the CEO report, we're going to introduce some new team members. Had our orientation on Monday, so one of our larger classes of about 9 new team members starting at LACERA. So grateful for the efforts from our managers, as well as our talent management team, which is actually fully staffed officially. We also want to acknowledge the internal audit team, as well as legal and communications. They work together to rebrand our ethics hotline, referred to as Speak Up, Protect Our Values. And it's our commitment to ensuring that employees, staff members have anonymity to report any fraud, waste, abuse. And it's really our commitment in fostering a culture of obviously integrity and accountability. So appreciate the efforts and really encourage our team members to leverage that ethics hotline if need be. We hope that they don't need to use it, but it's there and highly visible. Follow-up from this morning in terms of the Social Security Fairness Act. I know Mr. Liu talked about us forwarding some of the FAQs from the Social Security Administration. We want to go a step farther than that. We want to make sure that we're actually outreaching members within LACERA that are impacted. So JJ, his group, along with communications, we understand that a lot of our members, when you look at WEP and GPO, the government pension offset is really impacting our widow and widowers. And we know they've never filed a Social Security claim. And that's one of the things that Social Security needs in terms of identifying that population. So we're going to work collaboratively to make sure that we identify and do targeted outreach to those respective members that really have they're not on Social Security's radar. And then the others, we encourage, and we're going to reach out to members that are impacted by the windfall elimination provision to make sure they do an outreach to Social Security directly to make sure direct deposit, address, demographic information is updated. Because if they do make a change or look to issue benefits, we want to make sure that your information is up to date with Social Security as well. So just want to make sure that, again, we're looking at targeted recruitment efforts or targeted outreach efforts.
I did get an email from a LACERA member who waited until the very end of December to apply for Social Security. And they did not, and they computed his as if there was no pension offset windfall. So at least he'll start out from the get-go, you know, with the correct number. But those of us that have been impacted by it, my most difficult thing is going to be, I have no way of knowing how much my Social Security is. I know there's a formula and I've seen people try to explain it. It seems a little hard to understand, but I'll be one of the guinea pigs. As soon as I hear something from Social Security and they do the right thing, I'll let you know, but I ain't holding my breath. So
sounds good. Seems like an exercise for a weekend, maybe.
Yeah.
But and lastly, we want to again introduce some of our new team members to LACERA. Really excited about the folks that have started effective with Monday. We're going to start with our human resource team. So if we can have human resources introduce our new team member within HR.
Well, the microphone doesn't seem to be coming on, so I guess I'll just project a bit. Good morning. I'm Carly Antonio, the Director of Human Resources, and I'm happy to say that we've onboarded 2 new staff members this month. So since January 2024, we've onboarded 7. So with 2 more, that makes 9. The first person is Jenny Cano. Jenny was actually started as a temp, an agency temp with LACERA for about 3 years, and she's worked in 3 different divisions, and we're happy to say that she was able to get onboarded as a senior administrative assistant. Second is Ms. Tila Luong. She joins us as a human resources analyst, and she'll be working with the talent acquisition and management group. So this is Ms. Luong.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tila Luong, and I'm very excited to join LACERA as an HR analyst. I bring a strong background in HR solutions and workforce optimization, and I'm eager to contribute to enhance our people analytics and supporting strategic HR decisions. I look forward to collaborating with you all and helping drive meaningful insight that supports our workforce and business goals. Thank you for the warm welcome.
And we'll have our internal audit team introduce two new internal audit team members.
Such a great honor to be able to introduce somebody new. It's been a while. I'm Richard Bendel from Internal Audit. And I actually have 2 new people that joined this week. One is with me here today, and that's Delfino Aguilar. He comes to us from most recently from Honda Financial Services. And he has 11 years of experience, and just very excited to have him join the team. The other is Christian Velasquez, and but maybe I'll introduce him next month. Let me introduce Delfino.
Good morning, everybody. Pleasure to be here. I'm very excited to be part of LACERA. Most of my career has been with the state of California, where I have been a tax auditor, but most of my career has been as a regulator for financial institutions, where we ascertain their safety and soundness, or financial soundness as well, along with compliance. That's where I earned my CPA license, and then moved over to Honda Financial Services, where I have also working in the compliance department. So I'm looking forward to being part of LACERA, being a public servant for most of my career. It's a good opportunity for me to kind of give back to the LA County employees, where I've been a LA native myself. So I'm very looking much forward to working with everybody. Thank you.
Next, we'll have our Financial Accounting and Services Division.
Good morning, I'm Ted Granger. I'm the Chief Financial Officer here at LACERA. I head up our Financial and Accounting Services Division. I'm very excited to introduce Judy Tran. Judy is joining us with a wealth of knowledge and experience. She has over 20 years. She has an undergraduate degree in accounting. She has a graduate degree in leadership and management. She's worked at both public agencies as well as private agencies, including Edison, Azusa Water and Power, and we most recently stole her from a local city organization. So very excited to have her, and I'll give the mic to Judy so she can say a few words.
Thank you. Good morning, board members and trustees. I am delighted to be here. I join you from actually Superior Court. I used to work there, so I am a returning LACERA member, and but new to the LACERA family. So I am looking forward to helping Ted with everything that he needs and to support him. Thank you.
And lastly, Chair Robbins and trustees, our Information Security Division, chat. We'll introduce the two new team members there.
Good morning, trustees. Exciting news. We've got some permanent hires here at the Information Security Office. So most of them have actually been working for LACERA for over a year and a half as contractors. They've just been onboarded as LACERA employees. So first off, I'd like to introduce Yoel. Yoel previously worked at the NYSE, and then he started working at LACERA as a contractor. So that the next person is, gentleman is Zia. He also worked at another financial institution, MUFG, before coming to LACERA, and he's been here for a year or so. Tony is a new transfer from the systems division. I just thought best to introduce him as well. He's been here at LACERA for 10 years. He's just moved over into the ISA division. So with that, I'll let you all say a few words. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Coming with background of 20 years of security experience, deploying various technologies, had experience with the New York Stock Exchange, Toyota Financial Services, and other organizations. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, my name is Zia Fatimi. It's an honor to be here. Previous to LACERA, I was involved with MUFG Union Bank as a cybersecurity engineer. Previous to that, I was on the East Coast involved with the Department of Defense, Pentagon headquarters. And before that, the city of Washington, D.C. and other activities. It is an honor. I have been involved in this to some degree with Social Security, and LACERA is light years ahead of Social Security. Light years ahead. But I'm very happy to be here.
Good morning, Tony Soto. I've been with LACERA since 2013. I have probably about 27, 28 years in IT and technology experience. So just happy to join the InfoSec team and, we're protecting our members. Thank you.
And again, welcome aboard and look forward to their careers at LACERA. With that, I know JJ has one more comment and then Chair Robbins will pass it back to you.
Thank you, Louis. So I apologize. Names have power. And I realized as I was sharing the information about Joanne's retirement, I forgot to mention her last name. And our employees deserve that respect. So that's Joanne Trinkle. To Joanne, again, we thank you for your service. We appreciate you. And we wish you the best. Thank you very much. That's what happens when you get here late because of traffic and you don't have everything set up just the way you want it. So I apologize to the trustees and to Joanne.
And we'll stand for questions now.
Anyone have any questions for Louis?
Mr. Chair, I just have a comment. I just want to really acknowledge the efforts, looking at the numbers for fiscal year to date for Mr. Popovich's group with a above the 97th percentile in feedback is very impressive. It's hovering above that. It's really good. I'm glad to see that. And then just a shout out and a thanks to all the managers and the human resource department for bringing in these new people and filling these vacancies. To help us, provide a better service to our members. So it's the proof's in the pudding with the numbers and the feedback and the call center stuff. So just want to say thanks to that, acknowledge that.
Thank you. I always find the report interesting, especially when I start looking at how many Pepper members we've got compared to non-Pepper members and see how that is absolutely going nuts. But I mean, Sheriff's Department's about half Pepper right now. So, I mean, interesting.
They add up quickly.
Mr. Moore.
Yeah, on the I guess it's page 36 of 49, the member snapshot. I wanted to see under member average benefit, the general plans and safety plans. Is 1, 2, 3, 4 other charts on that same page, and they all show, I think all of them show, except maybe one, that split, and I want to see that split. Is that something that's doable? Or can I just get a report or something telling me what that is?
We can do both. It'll take me a little while to update the CO report so it shows there on a regular basis, but we can certainly get you that number. So you want the average monthly benefit for general members and average monthly benefit for safety members, correct?
Thanks.
Yep, we'll do that.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're on item 7, disability retirement applications on the consent calendar. The first group, I need a motion to approve 554E through 573E. These are Sheriff's Department.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
Mr. Kehoe,
Aye.
Mr. Razo,
Aye.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Moore, Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Ms. Langton? Yes. Ms. Ginsburg?
Yes.
Mr. Oakham? Mr. Oakham? Okay, Chair Robbins?
Aye, aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next group is 1908B through 1914B. These are fire department cases. I need a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Okay, Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Razo?
Aye.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Langton? Yes. Ms. Ginsburg? Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Chair Robbins?
I'm an aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next group are general members, SCDs on the consent calendar, 2875 through 2885. I need a motion.
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Razo?
Aye.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Ms. Langton? Yes. Ms. Ginsburg? Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Chair Robbins?
I'm an aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
And the last consent calendar is a non-service connected disability case number 4510. I need a motion. I'll second it.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Razo?
Aye.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Moore? Ms. Langton? Yes. Ms. Ginsburg? Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Chair Robbins?
I'm an aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We're now on to item A, consent items. I need a motion for items A, B, and C. They're on the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Mr. Green?
Hold on. I'll ask my place. Hold on.
No problem. I'll come back to you. This is for the consent calendar A through C. Mr. Razzo? Aye. Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Moore? Mr. Moore?
Did you get me?
Thank you. Ms. Langton? Yes. Ms. Ginsburg? Mr. Oakham?
Aye.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Chair Robbins?
I'm an aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Item 9 excluded from consent items. There are none. We're now on item 10, non-consent items. Item A, approval revision of contract costs for global relay. Do we want to do that one first or? Oh, wait. Item A is the cost of living exchange. I got a different cost of living adjustment. Ed, you're up.
Great. Good morning, Chair Robbins and Board of Retirement. Again, it's not my first time here. Good morning, Chair Robbins and Board of Retirement Trustees. I'm very excited to present this item today. There is a recommendation before the board. This is our 2025 retiree COLA item. And so I put together a couple of slides this year and I'll walk through them. Normally I just talk through the information. I think it's fairly straightforward, but I will go ahead and walk through the slides. Bonnie, if you could go to slide 2, please. There's about 5 steps in the process. They're very simple. They're very straightforward. First, we take a look at the CPI change. Then we determine the COLA award. Item 3 is the actual award amounts. I'll go over that. And then we have to talk a little bit about the COLA accumulation because that's part of this process. And finally, I'll touch upon the funding for the COLA. Next slide, please, Bonnie. Maybe one more. One more, please. Okay, so we're gonna, oops, I'm sorry. Back to slide 4. There we go. Okay, so we're going to tackle 2 items with this particular slide. The board is required to look at the CPI change for the prior calendar year. And so we do that by examining the BLS index, the Bureau of Labor Statistics index for our local area, Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Anaheim area. We measure the change in that index and we determine the percentage. That CPI percentage change is very important. It's 3.4%. Then the law requires that we round that up to the nearest 0.5%, which for this year would be 3.5. I'll pause right there for a quick second. The rounding is not a big factor for this particular year. The rounding would play a factor in other years. Let's say, for example, when the CPI is lower, if it's below the plan maximum. So I don't want to confuse the trustees with this discussion today with the rounding, but we do have to do that. Next slide, please. In terms of the, so we'll basically get right to the numbers. The COLA award is 3.5%. That exceeds our plan maximums. This chart shows what the actual COLA awards are for the retirees, for the 75,594 retirees, according to JJ's report. Each plan is different. Plan A is 3%. That's our plan maximum. The retirees get 3% COLA award. The other plans are 2%. For the general plan E, it can be up to 2% depending on if they purchased the COLA or the retirement date subsequent to June 2002. And finally, PEPRA members, as Mr. Robbins mentioned earlier, 2% COLA for the retired PEPRA members. I'll move on to the next slide. Okay, now we get into the fun stuff. Next slide, please, Bonnie, the COLA accumulation. So I put a couple of definitions here to talk a little bit about how we basically affect the COLA accumulation balances, and I'll go through some numbers here in a second. Additions, again, in this year is a good example. When the CPI change exceeds the plan maximums, we take that difference and we add it to the COLA accumulation. We'll talk about some numbers here in a second. Deductions, when in different years, when the COLA award is below the plan maximums, we can take from the COLA bank or the COLA accumulation and add it to the COLA to get that COLA up to the maximum, the statutory maximum. Star COLA, that's a different issue. That's a different award. That happens when we look at that in September and October. That's a January 1 COLA. That's different. Today is the statutory COLA, but the Star COLA can affect the accumulation account. when the balances in those accounts are above the 20%, the board can authorize a star COLA. And we can talk about that separately if there's any questions on that. And finally, the accumulation balance, as I mentioned, balances vary depending upon when a person retired. So generally, balances increase over time when these excess amounts are awarded to the COLA accumulation. And we'll review some numbers here in a quick second. Next slide, please, Bonnie. Okay, so this is the COLA accumulation in terms of some language that applies to this particular year. 3.4%, as I mentioned, the 3 is the CPI percentage change. So 0.4% for Plan A members would go into their COLA bank or their COLA accumulation. So they get their 3.0 COLA, but the change was 3.4, so that 0.4 goes into their bank. And we have charts that are attached to the memo that show the different years of retirement and those amounts being added to the bank. For the other plans, the CPI change again was the same, 3.4%. However, their plan maximum is 2.0, so they get a 1.4% addition to their COLA accumulation. All right, on the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about the numbers, and this is my favorite slide, but I'll try to walk through it and make it simple. So in example number 1, we have a retiree group, and what I did was I took samples from the tables that are attached to the memo. In example number 1, we have a retiree group that retired prior to 1981. This is a Plan A group. The plan maximum, as I mentioned, 3.0, and I'm kind of going across the table here, if you will. The CPI change was 3.4. The COLA accumulation, if we look back to 2024, was 11.3%. So that's our starting balance. That's obviously from the accountant's perspective, we love to have a starting balance. We take a look at what happened for the Star COLA for that particular group. There was no Star COLA award for that particular group. They were not eligible. We add that 0.4% to the balance. That's that excess amount that they're not receiving this particular cycle. That leaves them with an 11.7% balance. The same methodology applies to the other 2 examples. I'm happy to walk through them, or if there's any questions on this, we can probably move on. Okay, let's move on. And then finally, COLA funding. And I wanted to make a couple of comments about COLA funding this year. Retirees' COLAs are included in actuarial assumptions. So that's great news. What that means is the actuary calculates in the members' contribution rates an amount of contributions that will be used to accumulate and pay for members' COLAs later when they're retired. So when they're active and they're paying contributions, they're paying for 1/2 of the COLA amount that they could receive later on when they're retired. The employer's contribution rate also includes a COLA amount, and that's the other half of the anticipated COLA. So those calculations are built into Milliman's actuarial model. And so essentially the COLAs are pre-funded. They don't cost the plan per se, because we've been planning for these COLAs since the member was an active member and they started making contributions to LACERA. So there's a $0 impact on the AAL. There's a 0% impact on the normal cost to award this COLA. On the payment side, these COLAs increase the member benefit payments. Our benefits team and our systems team work very diligently to make those calculations. We simply pay the benefits as we normally would via the increased amount. And again, these are subject to Board of Retirement approval for today's meeting. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I hope I made it simple for the board this year.
Does anyone have any questions of Ted? Elaine.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Sure.
What happens when it's a negative 1.5% COLA?
So you're referring to if the CPI is a negative amount, right?
If we could go back to your chart for 1 second.
Yeah. There you go. Yes.
So yeah, the Star COLA January 2025, number 2 says negative 1.5%.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So
I'm sure I asked the question wrong.
Oh,
yeah.
No, it's okay. No. Great question. Okay. So today we're talking about the statutory COLA, the April 1st COLA. The Star COLA, that happens in January. So what we normally do as part of our cycle is I come to the board in September and October and we review the accumulation balances at the time. So we're talking right now about Star Cola. When those accumulation balances are above 20%, so for example, this balance was most likely 21.5% for this particular group at that time. That made that retiree group eligible for a Star Cola. The board awarded that Star Cola. And so in doing so, we would reduce their accumulation balance from 21.5 to 20. It resets their balance. But we come in today, and should the board award the COLA, we would add back the excess. So I'm sort of doing the math there. 21.5 is before that April 2024 date. That's the accumulation balance at that time after last year's COLA. Then we had a Star COLA for that group of 1.5. They were awarded that increase in their benefit, reduced that balance. Today, we're adding back the 1.4 for the excess. So I'm just trying to show the linear math. It's meant to be simple, but it gets a little complicated.
Yeah.
So Star COLA versus regular COLA.
Okay, thank you. That helps a lot. And I have one other question. And pardon me for the ignorance of this question. Who sets the maximum CPI at 3% or at the different percentages?
Those are plan maximums that are included with the retirement law. Those are in SERL. Those are the plan maximums.
Okay, so we're stuck with it.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
When's the next triennial?
2025, June 30, 2024.
That's
2025
what
for
we do in
pension.
triennial actuarial in
Yes.
2020, this year?
This year, yes, sir. Yes, coming up.
I couldn't remember, so.
Yeah. Every 3 years, last one was 2022. Next one is 2025. Yeah, what happens is over time, you kind of start to forget when it's supposed to come up because 3 years starts to get to be a little bit of a long time.
And Pepper will soon follow, right, Ted?
I'm sorry, Trustee Green, could you say that again?
Yeah, the annual for PEPRA, post-PEPRA is soon after the triennial, right? One follows the other, correct?
Pension and OPEB, yes. So pension will be 2025, June 30 will be the next triennial. The next triennial evaluation for pension will be June 30, 2025. Following that for 2026 will be the OPEB actuarial triennial evaluation. So we look at the assumptions for pension first in 2025, then we look at the assumptions for the OPEB program in 2026.
And the annual for PEPRA actuary evaluation follows the triennial for legacy, correct?
Okay, so PEPRA contribution rates are required to change every year per the actuarial valuation. Milliman will present that valuation to the board, the 2024 valuation to the Board of Investments next week. So we're a little bit behind on the 2024. The annual valuation resets the PEPRA contributions every year. The triennial resets the legacy member contributions every 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. But normally though, as far as a timeline, the annual actuary report for PEPRA adjustment would follow the triennial, right? That's usually the timeline. The triennial happens, then PEPRA would follow soon afterwards, correct? Or are they put together?
Yeah. So PEPRA changes every year, and then the triennial changes the legacy and the PEPRA on that year. So
okay, gotcha. Okay, that answers my question. The other thing I have is that 0.5% of shared cost that is built into the plan and member contribution. That's I think you answered it, but I just want to clarify. That's for all plans, right? That 0.5% on each side.
yes.
On slide, it's you talk about the COLA funding. Yeah, on slide the COLA funding slide, number 12. The assumptions are included. The actual assumptions, member and employee contribution rates include 0.5% of COLA benefit, and that's for all plans, right? A through G. Okay.
Yeah, legacy and PEPRA. Yes, you're correct.
Regardless. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. And the employer pays the other half.
Yeah, thank you. So a half 0.5 for each, right?
Yes, it's not a 0.5% in terms of the contribution rate itself. So if my contribution rate is 9%, it's not necessarily 0.5% of that 9% rate. It is half of the cost. So for example, my COLA for Ted's contribution could be 0.32%. Somebody else's COLA with a different entry age could be 0.36%, right? Depending on the entry age. So it's half of the cost, not 0.5%. Does that make
Okay,
sense?
all right. So let me repeat that just so I'm clear. If with a 2% COLA, it's how they pre-fund that with the plan sponsor. They are, through that actuary report, triannual or annual, they are determining that what the assumed COLA potentially will be, and then the plan sponsor and the member splits that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for making that simple.
I think for those trustees that are relatively new to the system, the triennial actuarial evaluation is the one that we use to adjust members' contributions. It's the only one we use that can raise the contributions of our members every 3 years. So we can raise the county's contribution every year if we choose to do that.
Right.
But the plan members only once every 3 years.
Right.
Correct?
Yes. Right.
AP?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand. I get the basic math, but I notice we do that rounding from 3.4 to 3.5, but then only 1.4 over the 3, or whatever your plan accounts for, gets put into the bank.
Right.
Why do we do that rounding exercise then?
Okay, so if we go back to Bonnie, good question. If we go back to slide 4, please. Over on the right-hand side in kind of the lighter text, down in the bottom corner, slide 4. Did I get that right? Slide 4, please. So in this hypothetical example down there in the gold text, we have a plan maximum of 2.0%. We have a CPI percentage change of 1.3. Then we would round up to 1.5. So that award, the rounding actually increased the COLA award in this example. Instead of 1.3 that we're supposed to use CPI change, it would go up to 1.5.
If you're going to be making an award for banking purposes, you use the actual CPI number.
Correct.
Okay. Now I get it.
Yes, you got it.
All right. Very good. Thank you.
Right. Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody, any other questions?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. One more thing. So I really like it's a sliding scale then, so it almost ensures the maximum COLA per year as long as there's an COLA accumulation bank done, right? So in this example, your hypothetical example, with this CPI coming in at 1.3, it's rounded to 1.5, which is a gain, a gift. But where it comes out at 2.0 for our Plan B members, for example, is you reduce the accumulation bank if it's available, and therefore the member gets a 2% COLA. That's all defined by Searle as that's defined in Searle, or is that one of our policies?
That is defined in Searle, Trustee Green. You said it very well. Exactly what you said.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
Chair Robbins, just for the newer members, I think it'd be valuable if Ted explained the funding source for the Star COLA really quick, because I know there was a question about the Star COLA. They are two different funding sources, and so I think that might be helpful.
Does everybody know what Star COLA means?
I know.
Right.
supplemental targeted cost of living allowance.
Yes.
Like a
Right.
bonus.
So, yeah, so.
Okay, you might as well explain it.
Right, so, yeah.
Even
so-
though I'm sure you have 3 times already, but.
Right, no, that's okay. So the Star COLA program is separate than the statutory COLA. And in terms of the funding source, we started out with the 1996 agreement with the county, the funding agreement with the county. The county had sold pension obligation bonds to fully fund the system. LACERA became 100% funded at the time, and then LACERA became about 103.5% funded. So there were, quote, excess earnings at the time. The county agreed to sort of split those earnings and put some of those earnings in a Star COLA reserve account. That account grew to about $1.1 billion at the peak. And it became the account that the county and LACERA obviously agreed that it would be used to fund these Star COLA benefits. It's been drawn down over time. The Milliman calculates the amount that's required to fund the Star COLA benefit payment. So when the board awards the Star COLA, that money that pays those benefits comes out of the Star COLA account, reserve account. So it's down to about $608 million. This is a good opportunity. There was a question I think one of the trustees raised not too long ago. I think last time we talked about Star COLA regarding funding of the Star Reserve. So the Board of Investment, so let me back up. The 1990 agreement with the county prompted LACERA to have a funding policy to address future excess earnings. That funding policy was recently revised by the Board of Investments. We now have a new funding policy. That funding policy also addresses that issue of excess earnings. I did go back based on a question I received from Santos last week. I did go back and talk to Fiduciary Council and the actuary. And our current funding policy does allow, should we meet certain thresholds in the funding policy, meaning over 100% funded, and as well pending a Fiduciary Council review, SERL and how it applies to our policy. Those excess earnings could be applied and used to fund the Star COLA reserve, should the board opt to do that. So that's a bit perhaps down the road in terms of getting to that over 100% funded mark. And as well, Milliman's done projections on the 608 million. So let's say I come to this board in September and October and we're talking about Star COLA again. Those projections are expected to go out about 15 years plus, and we'll ask Milliman to do a little bit longer term projections on their next memo. So we think we have enough in the Star COLA for about the next 15 years. If we're getting nervous about the funding of that, we would have to go back and look at our funding policy, and we'd have to get the fund to be over 100% funded to start putting money in the Star Reserve. So I went a little off on a tangent, but I wanted to address a trustee's question that had come up.
Normally the Star COLA will be considered by this board sometime in October, November, so that we can execute it for January 1. So you should, and then the analysis, the additional analysis that Ted is talking about will be done at that time.
Mr. Kehoe.
Thank you.
Thank you. Since we're talking about it, I'll go ahead and bring it up. This is a very serious concern, and we as a board need to have a conversation and look into this. With the Star COLA program projected to reaching 0 in 15 years, at that point it will go away. The Star COLA balance was not gaining any interest or any investment return growth, even though that was money that was being held by LACERA and being invested. So essentially the organization benefited and ultimately sponsor and members benefited by the interest on that money from the Star COLA that was eventually destined to reach 0. And The other thing to look at that there's a benefit that's not entirely being captured is that when the Star Cola balance is reduced and paid out and applied permanently, that interest balance is reduced. The actuaries include the cost of interest as they're developing the rates and everything. So there is a benefit, financial benefit as well there. So as the interest is going up, as the balance is going up, if Star Cola did not exist, we're going to continue to see these inflation, continue, and we're going to continue to see those balances continue. And eventually you're going to have members that are at 70-80% balance in there that has lost that much in purchasing power. So there's a lot of things that we as a plan obviously cannot advocate for any enhanced benefits, but these are things that I think the unions will definitely be looking at, the county should be looking at, and we'll definitely need to look at it as well on how we can make this more sustainable and properly capture some of those benefits that I just mentioned that are not being captured. I think there's much more of a cost neutral element to this than what is being captured on the math. So this is a very big topic and a big discussion, and something that we should probably agendize and have a conversation about. Maybe this is a good offsite topic to have a deeper dive in. But ultimately, this is an issue that if we close our eyes in 15 years is going to be a major problem, but potentially could have less of an issue if everybody gets together and makes this a little more sustainable at a pretty relatively small cost when you look at it. If we are forward thinking and we handle it properly and we properly capture the investment returns, which I think should have been in there, then I think we'd be in a much better position. And ultimately, when you think about it, you're looking at members who lost 20% of their purchasing power plus in retirement, and we're trying to keep them whole in retirement. So that's what I'll say about that. It's a big issue. I don't want it to go over our head or have it be too confusing that we just kind of throw it off to the side, because this is something that we can't close our eyes on, that the members expect us to be looking at and at least bringing it to the attention of the parties involved so that they can get together. If this is predominantly a union / county issue, we should at least bring it to their attention so that they can have a conversation. And that's what I'll say on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I can tag on to what Mr. Keough said. I absolutely agree. I mean, the Star Cola has a direct nexus to the accumulation account. I mean, I think that's fair to say. And in the hypothetical example, when the CPI is lower, if we didn't have that sustainability, as Mr. Keough's talking about, theoretically, an employee would not get that 0.5% bump to keep on par with our max COLA amount per pension system. Is that fair to say, Ted, on that?
So yeah, just to clarify that a little bit, the Star Cola award would become available when that accumulation is above 20%.
Right, I understand that. But what I'm saying is if that accumulation account is not available because of that loss that it builds up every year, when, like as an example this year, when that excess goes into that accumulation account, that purchasing power would be lost. I guess I'm just trying to support what Mr. Keough said about it, some type of discussion for sustainability, because in the absence of that accumulation plan, you would not have that additional gift of 0.5% example, right?
Correct. Yes, that is
So-
correct.
So it's a big deal.
Great.
I just want to have a quick question. As far as the funding for STAR, does the BOR make the policies, the regulations? Are we the ones that decide on that?
Yes, the Board of Retirement awards the Star COLA.
Mhm.
In terms of the funding itself,
Or in the policies?
okay.
Or do we decide on that?
Yeah. So the actuarial funding policy is under the purview of the Board of Investments. The funding policy is on the Board of Investments. The initial funding essentially came from the county in that 1990s agreement.
Okay.
So that was the initial funding. So what Mr. Keogh is referring to today is, which is a great topic of discussion, is what can the LACERA boards do today to start funding that for the future. So I was thinking while Mr. Keogh was talking, there'll probably be some involvement on the Board of Retirement and some involvement on the Board of Investments, because we have the Board of Retirement responsible for awarding the benefits, but we have the Board of Investments responsible for funding the benefits. So we'll have to figure out how the interaction works between the two boards.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other Star COLA questions? Back in 1989, 90, and 91, the biggest issue amongst all of the systems, the 37 Act systems at Sackers, was what are we going to do with all of our excess earnings? Because everybody was overfunded. CalPERS jumped up and said, we're 170% funded. Senate Bill 400 was born. And the state legislature passed it unanimously, and everybody got the 3 at 50 and all the enhancements, because organizations like PERS said we're super funded and we've got money to pay for these benefit enhancements in perpetuity without changing contribution rates, which was a massive lie for starters. But it's funny how things have changed. We were sitting here a little overfunded, and and it was a good place to be. But obviously 911 came along, the mortgage meltdown in 8 or 9 came along, and a whole lot of stuff changed real quick. So.
Right. Interesting.
Thanks, Ted.
Yes.
Yeah. Remember.
So hopefully
from
in
the
40
past.
years, we'll be sitting here again saying, remember when we weren't funded? We thought we weren't going to be funded.
Right.
So we need a motion on item A on the COLA. So
I'll make a
I'll
move.
move.
Second.
motion and a second. Where'd you vote?
Mr. Green,
Aye.
Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Aye.
Ms. Langton, Ms. Ginsburg, Mr. Oakham. Okay, Chair Robbins,
I'm an aye.
the motion passes unanimously by all trustees present.
Thank you. We're on item B. I don't think we really need a report on item B. It's basically approve the monthly cost of Global Relay from 10.2 million to 11.9, and the setup charges revised from 8.480 to 8.975, and then the revised total 5-year 60-month expenditures increased from 622 to 722.
I make the motion.
Kind of housekeeping. So, okay.
May I ask?
I'll make the motion, and if there's a second, then we'll go to your
Yeah.
question.
Mr. Keogh made the motion and Mr. Robbins will second.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Have we already started the contract?
No, not yet.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Steve, you want to?
Yeah, just a clarification there. Trustee Langton, were you asking if we finished the contract?
If we've started the new contract.
We've not started, we're still actually negotiating
Great.
the contract.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And this came up actually during the contract negotiations, the need for these additional services to accomplish the goal.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Okay, Mr. Green,
Vote, Jason.
Mr. Green. Okay, I can see you.
I'm trying to get off mute. Aye.
Great, thank you so much. Mr. Razzo,
Aye.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Langton?
Yes.
Ms. Ginsburg?
Yes.
Mr. Oakham?
Yes.
Chair Robbins?
I'm an aye.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. Sure.
I just wanted to also mention, the reason I was asking is because I saw the word retroactive in the document. So it is not a retroactive because we haven't finished negotiating yet. Retroactive negotiation maybe, but not a retroactive.
That wasn't the best choice of words in the item because it's not retroactive. We're not paying, we're not asking the board to approve additional compensation for services already rendered.
Right. Thank you. Just wanted to.
Any other questions? We're now on item 11A, LACERA 2025 election of 7th and alternate 7th members. Review and update on the statement of powers and duties of the Board of Retirement Trustees. Mr. Rice.
Good morning, Chair Robbins and trustees. Every year before the annual trustee elections, the board reviews and approves the trustee powers and duties document. Next slide, Bonnie. This year, staff proposes a revised and restated version. No action is requested today. Instead, we would like your input on the new version, which we will then use to finalize the document for approval at the March board meeting. This presentation will set the stage for discussion by going over the background of the current powers and duties, the goal and guiding principles to be applied in reviewing the document, and then a summary of the highlights of the changes in the new summary of responsibilities document. Next slide, Bonnie. The powers and duties are a public document that LACERA has historically provided to prospective candidates, voters, other stakeholders, including the county in making appointments and the public at large in connection with trustee election appointments. The document is also posted on LACERA.com as an ongoing public resource. The powers and duties is not itself a policy or governing document. It is an informational summary drawn from LACERA policies and the law. The same format for the powers and duties has been used for over 20 years, although the document has steadily become longer as various things have been bolted on to the original framework. This is the first comprehensive review of the document that has been presented to the board. Good governance supports that a critical eye be given to all board documents periodically. This year's detailed review and restatement is consistent with the Board of Retirement's strategic plan, and especially Goal 4, enhanced risk management, which calls for improved management of LACERA documents and the simplification and clarification of documents to improve their effectiveness and mitigate risk. Next slide. This document is a communications piece, so the goal of review should be to enhance the understanding and effectiveness of that communication. The principles that were applied to the review process include accuracy and improved logical structure and ordering, where fiduciary duty and service come first, and the focus on service supports a change in the wording also from powers to responsibilities, because we speak of fiduciary responsibility, not fiduciary powers. The document should have the right level of detail in providing a summary of areas of responsibility. The document is not itself a policy, as I said before, so it should not try to comprehensively restate policies, because that would create risk of confusion and also potential conflict. The document should also be readable in its plain language and manageable length. Next slide, please. The next 4 slides go through the high points of the new proposed summary document. I won't go through all of the sections. I'll just quickly go over the key changes. The major change that's flagged on this slide is to move the fiduciary duties section from the back of the document to the very front. And this is important because fiduciary duties inform everything the trustees do. So whether they're prospective candidates or other stakeholders, the first thing that audience should consider is that this is a fiduciary position with these fiduciary responsibilities of the duty of loyalty and the duty of care. We also added new sections on about LACERA and trustee qualifications and board composition. These were added as important foundational information. Next slide. In the trustee responsibilities section, the order of the bullets was changed so that the list begins with the primary board fiduciary oversight responsibilities that are defined in the law and flow from fiduciary duty of the Board of Retirement, and then moves on to supporting items. The wording was also simplified to give a clear and direct statement of each responsibility, as opposed to the long technical and legalistic statement and paragraphs on each duty that were contained in the current document. And this is where that issue of potential conflict and confusion comes in, because you start to say too much and it's starting to look like a policy when it's not. An external affairs bullet was added to summarize LACERA's outward-facing policies. Next slide, please. A separate section was created to address board and committee meetings and other trustee obligations. This paragraph informs the reader that service on the board requires a, quote, substantial commitment, close quote, for meetings and other obligations that will vary from month to month based on many factors and will, and this is important, depend on each trustee's individual fiduciary decisions. We recognize that there's a substantial commitment. The actual boundaries of that are really in large part dependent on individual trustee fiduciary decision making. The range of hours in the prior powers was replaced with this substantial commitment language, because this hours framework has not proven to be a durable approach, being subject to change almost every year by the board, where there's discussion about, well, what's the right amount of hours? And some people think it's too high, too low, having other points of view on it. So this year we took that bull by the horns and reconfigured the responsibilities, the description of the extent of the responsibilities in a more fiduciarily compliant perspective, more through a fiduciary lens, by just simply stating that this is a big job. This is a substantial commitment, and the individual trustees have their own discretion individually to really decide how they're going to pursue their fiduciary responsibilities. It's not typical for the duties of a public office to be defined in hours, and that was another principle that came to mind when this new document was drafted. Staff believes that the substantial commitment wording and the language as to the ultimate control by individual trustees and their fiduciary judgment is better and more durable communication as to the magnitude of each trustee's service. Sometimes questions arise where trustees need support in addressing questions they receive as to the commitment that's necessary to serve on the board and their flexibility as fiduciaries. And staff is going to continue to support those questions. So I think this is an important and principled change that really makes the document a better piece of communication, more accurate from a fiduciary perspective, and will also, again, for I think the third time I mentioned it, but I think it's core, making it a more durable piece of communication. Next slide, please. The proposed summary document concludes with sections on education, conflicts of interest, and mandatory financial disclosures, compensation and expenses, and these are all revised versions from the existing document. And there's also a new concluding section on the Board of Investments to convey the overall governance picture of the two boards. Next slide, please. This slide shows how the sections of the current powers are mapped to the new proposed summary. It looks like a bit of a circuit board, but I think we wanted to show this to you so that it communicates that we did track the content of the current powers and duties document into the new proposed summary of responsibilities of Board of Retirement Trustees document. Next slide. And with that concludes the presentation, and I'm happy to stand for any questions or comments.
Mr. Kehoe.
Thank you. So my comment is that I'm not in support of making this change, although I'm appreciative of the staff work that went into this and this presentation and the amount of time and all of that. I don't believe that the board asked for this I think that this was a staff-driven project. That being said, I read this current 6-page document, and I have a complete and thorough understanding of the role and responsibility that I have on this board. And I remember 15 years ago reading this document, a little bit shorter back then, but I think it was about 4.5 pages, almost 5 pages. And feeling the weight and really considering what I was getting myself into and having a clear picture of it. It being reduced to a 2-page bullet pointed document that guts it of the weight of the responsibility is, to me, turning it into a recruitment brochure of how great our job is versus the reality of the work, energy, and effort that has to go into it. And I think it's very important for people that are considering this role to understand that responsibility. I'm sorry, but substantial commitment does not clearly and accurately define the work that I've had to do over the past 15 years on this board, the time and energy that it takes to go to these training sessions and to be engaged in all of the outside committees and things and everything else that has to come with it. Frankly, if a potential individual is looking at this, or often our employers, because we provide this document to our employers, to this plan sponsor, so that they can see what the roles are. If they can't read the 6-page document and need it cut down to a 2-page, then that's a problem, right? At the end of the day, there's nothing in those 6 pages that are factually inaccurate. They're all accurate. It provides a clear picture and understanding what the roles and responsibilities are, and answers most questions on what the weight is that they're considering. And I think that watering it down to a 2-page, simpler to read thing that only highlights the positives versus the weight of the responsibility is not the way to go. I once again appreciate the staff energy and effort in this. But this is not what I would be supportive of in passing on to people that are considering this. And I'm not just looking at, I mean, this happens to be brought up during my election period, but I'm talking about it for all of the trustees here that are looking at elections. I think that it's important for all of the members that are considering running to have a full and complete picture on what they're getting themselves into. And I'm sorry, the 6-page document does it for me. It always has. And watering it down is not the way to go. So I see that this is a report. What I suggest that we keep it as is. And there's some areas that we can perhaps add some language, like if you want to say substantial commitment before you get into the examples of the hours, that's fine. But to remove the hours or to remove a number of the other responsibilities, to cut it down to 2 pages, I'm not in support of.
I agree with Mr. Kehoe. I think it's best if it's more specific. If it's vague, it leaves to the discretion of whoever is the supervisor, and it doesn't give a clear depiction of what this duty entails. So I agree with Trustee Kehoe on that.
Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do also want to echo, I appreciate, the enthusiasm of staff and going after this and really, trying to work through it. But I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Keel on this. I appreciate it, trying to find a language or a way to address the workload that's succinct, but I believe as presented, it could create ambiguity. And in interpretation. And that ambiguity could lead to, as Mr. Kehoe said, and for lack of a better term, that, this is a junket and, maybe I'll try it, or it could create interpretation conflict through that ambiguity. That's why I think quantifying the workload is so important. I think when you assign an hourly, and again, going back to, if there was a revision, strengthening that quantification with, strong language of how much it entails. And I want to speak for all appointed and elected. When I was when Will Pryor told me, when I was running, he said, hold on to your hat. And I've had to. So I do agree with what's been stated, and I have nothing further on it. I think it should stay the same.
Thank you, Chair. I join all of the above. I won't repeat the continual arguments, but I had so many adjustments and changes that I think I don't know that I would have had the guts to say, let's keep it as is. So thank you, Mr. Kehoe. I haven't been here long enough, but that hit it right on the target. Thank you.
Mr. Rice, after all this, you have any comments, Steve?
The board trustees who've spoken have made their views clear. I obviously was putting before you for consideration a different approach, which was not watering down anything. It was adding some precision and accuracy, but that's an issue of perspective, and we will proceed, unless there's further discussion or direction by the board, we'll proceed to present a document in March that aligns with this discussion.
Okay. Anybody have any other comments? Good. Thanks very much. So on item 11, items B through G are information only items. There's no action required. Items for staff review, item 12.
Yep.
There are none. Items for
I do have.
Oh,
yes.
you do.
Trustee Kehoe requested that staff identify members who have lost their home in the recent fires and identify their member profiles so that staff can provide outreach efforts to them. Trustee Kehoe also requested that the Star Cola be agendized, possibly at the board offsite for further discussion. And lastly, Trustee Moore requested that the CEO report reflect the average monthly benefit for general and safety members.
Sounds good. Item 13, items for future agendas.
Just the Star Cola item.
Just the Star Cola. Okay. Good of the order. I'll just let you go through that.
Ms. DeRosa?
I just want to say again, thank you to JJ and the staff for all the efforts for the fire assistance. Actually, last month I was thinking about that. I didn't mention it. I didn't know what was to come. And so I'm very happy to hear all the work that's been put into that. And I completely appreciate it because a lot of people were affected. I personally know people as well. And thank you for all the reports today. Very informative and all. And I look forward to seeing you guys next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
I'll just echo Trustee DeRosa's comments. I know for those of us who weren't directly impacted, I think sometimes it's lost just how difficult a time this has been. And we really appreciate everything staff has done, particularly those who were displaced themselves and still came in to help their fellow employees and also to help retirees who have been impacted. It is just a huge, huge lift, and we really, really deeply appreciate everything they've done. I know this is a marathon, not a sprint. We've still got a lot to do for the next year, over the years to come, to get us back to where we were, if we can ever get back to where we were. But I just want to echo those comments that how much we truly, truly appreciate everything they have already done and everything that we're all going to be asked to do going forward.
Ms. Langton?
Just wanted to say thank you to everyone that presented today. and prepared reports. Thank you to Bonnie for keeping us all on track as usual. So it's already been a challenging year for obviously our neighborhood and all of LA County. Add to that, while a few of us were in Washington, DC, the plane crashed and, flights got, I mean, not that that's an issue, but it's just chaotic. And we're only in February. So I'm hoping that the rest of this year is positive. I think we need to stay positive. We're continually thinking of the people who have lost their homes and continually grateful to the firefighters, first responders, and everybody who has volunteered to help, including the people at LACERA. I'm so sorry for the people who lost their homes that work at LACERA. And I think it's amazing that they continued to remain involved during that time, because I can't even imagine that. And I think that's about it. Thanks.
Ms. Ginsburg?
So I echo everybody's comments. I think it's been a very difficult year so far. Not only have our LACERA employees been impacted by the fires that are all over our community and our county employees, but the positive spirit still remains, and you can see the collaboration. So I really appreciate coming together to provide whatever support or services we can provide to our community, our retired members, our employees, just members of the community. We're going to need it over these next few months and years. I want to thank staff for all of their hard work. It's been a lot of work in difficult times, and we really appreciate your support.
Thank you. Mr. Green?
Thanks, Bonnie. Per policy update, we're supposed to update after we get back from trips, and had a really good in CPER's legislative conference. We were talking about the Social Security and how Chair Robbins is going to be the litmus test on the whole thing for us. Appreciate that, sir. But that GPO and WEP reform is big, and just something that came from the Hill. Our lobbyist, Tony Rhoda, really did an amazing job in setting us up with some really good meetings. Most of the Congress folks were on break, so it was all their staff. But one of the things on that Social Security, Senator Grassley or Congressman Grassley from Iowa started sniffing around an offset to the repeal. With looking at mandatory Social Security. So it didn't get to the board. I think according to our lobbyist Tony, he said he kind of read the room and didn't put it. It would have got shut down. But it's still out there, and it could be a problem for us. So it's something for staff and everybody to know when we're delivering this information with Social Security that there might be an overlying threat. With some movement to try and get mandatory Social Security for public pension funds. So that's pretty much the update on that. It was a great trip. Again, a lot of moving parts, but I think we got our message across really thoroughly, and it was a lot of great speakers at the conference too. So that's it.
Mr. Rue?
Thank you, Bonnie. I just want to echo a lot of folks' comments to our LACERA staff who were directly affected or indirectly affected by the fires. I don't know what to say. I mean, whatever we could do to help, and to all the other LACERA staff who pitched in and helped each other out and helping neighbors and other Angelinos. Thank you for all of your hard work. I think we all know folks. I mean, I have personal friends and multiple friends and coworkers who've been affected directly. And even those who were not affected, but all their neighbors were. I mean, that's another kind of guilt that they have. But I just want to remind folks two things. Well, and of course, thanking our first responders, police and fire, and like others have said, it's not over yet. So I just want to remind folks two things. Next, the rains are coming. Rains are here, actually. Mudslides. especially in the affected areas. Having experienced this before when I was on the city council, at one point, a house slid down a hill and blocked off a road. So, I mean, be very, very careful of mudslides. Please follow first responders, what they say. And also if for those who are affected, if you go back to your homes, please make sure to wear protective gear. It's still a long ways, as others have said, is a long ways to go. Please wear protective gear, even if the skies are clear and it looks fine and you don't smell anything, it doesn't matter. Please wear protective gear, and everyone hang in there. We're all Angelinos. We're gonna stick together, pitch in, and we're gonna get through this. But I don't want to sugarcoat it. It is gonna take some time. Thank you.
Mr. Moore?
I just have to echo everything that's been said already and just reemphasize that where there's a will, there's a way, and struggle has been a part of at least the African American culture for a very long time. And we're resilient. And if you're resilient and you believe that you can overcome, you can address a lot of these painful issues and be able to move on with your life. So I just keep everyone in my prayers moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Oakham.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting and that what the supervisors have done, and I think they've made a lot of good decisions and helpful decisions to these communities. And they've been there. They're not, they've been in the communities and they're making decisions that I think will make rebuilding much faster. I'd like to remind everybody that the Rose Bowl, I just can't believe it. I did go up there one day. And Mr. Green, I don't know if you were up there, but they took care of a lot of fire first responders, and they had a whole city set up there, which I think was really good. For the community, obviously, is our community here at the Rose Bowl in Altadena got hit really hard. I would like to ask Ms. Greenberg a question because I'm kind of curious. What are you going to do with the assessed values of these houses now that have burned down? Does that change? Does it get reevaluated until they build a new house? And when they build a new house, does it go back to where it was? How does that function?
Yes, basically, the Office of the Assessor is reviewing all of the impacted properties as we speak. We're working on connecting with property owners so that their properties that were damaged or lost get reassessed as quickly as possible. And then it'll take some time to rebuild. And once that's rebuilt, they will be reassessed back to the original value that they were at now.
Okay, thank you. That's good. That's what I thought, but I've got a lot of friends here that have lost homes. So if I get asked that question, I can get them an answer. So thank you so much. And again, thanks everybody for what you do for the county and what you do for LA. This is an important part of it. And our staff, I mean, you can't congratulate them enough.
And I just want to add, for any impacted folks that you may know, we encourage them to proactively reach out to the Office of the Assessor to file a misfortune and calamity claim to expedite that process. We are taking those applications online. We are at the local assistance centers every day, trying to make sure that we're available for the community to answer their questions and to move them through that process as quickly as possible.
Now, what do you do if a home is not destroyed, but had, some major damage? It didn't burn down, but then major damage. Do you reassess that property also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kehoe.
Thank you. And Ron, yes, I lived for 2 weeks there at the Rose Bowl, and it was just the hospitality from the Rose Bowl was just absolutely amazing, and from the community was amazing. And that's actually what I was gonna say. I was talking to my kids about this, that even in these times of tragedy, terrible tragedy, terrible loss, we are so blessed to be here in Los Angeles County and just see the outreach from the community, from so many groups, I saw it firsthand being there, the amount of people coming to help and provide assistance and wanting to do whatever they could. I mean, we saw it here in-house at LACERA. We saw it just across the whole nation coming in to help us out. And everybody really did step up to assist. And it's definitely not over. And a lot of people are going to be dealing with this for a while. So, you know, don't stop that assistance, keep it going. And we're just so happy and fortunate to be here with such a great group of residents and community and people. And here in LACERA, just seeing what we're doing and how quickly we jumped in. So let's not forget how we all come together in times like this. So very appreciative of all that.
Thank you, Mr. Kryman.
Yes, I just wanted to make a couple of comments. The first is I was a little slow on the uptake and I didn't get a chance to talk about the last item, but I just wanted to correct one particular item. The issue of rewriting the powers and duties was not a staff directed exercise. It was really a CEO directed exercise. And I wanted to make sure that you were aware that while I appreciate, many of the comments, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, we better proceed accordingly. I do want to mention that while the elected's perspective is very, very important, I understand the need to be more specific. On the appointed side, it's been very, very difficult to recruit individuals based on the specificity or the, especially the time commitment, quite frankly, that is required or at least is identified in the powers and duties. And so as a result, a lot of folks are interested at the beginning and then they gracefully bow out. And so hopefully we have a new person that gets appointed for the 4th District. But that was one of the emphasis for me, at least, to make sure that we have a good pool of candidates, because the quality of the candidate is just as important in order to attract, to make sure that LACERA continues in a good path. So I want to thank Mr. Rice for his efforts in that regard, and all of staff that did a really good job of trying to write a document that will help with the recruitment on the appointed side, at least, as well as help with outlining all the fiduciary duties for the electeds as well as the appointeds as well. So thank you for that effort, and I'm sorry I didn't jump in sooner. I had to think about it a little bit. I also wanted to just recognize the resilience of my staff in terms of the last month, quite frankly. They've done a tremendous job. I can't tell you how proud I am to lead an organization that shows that much compassion and empathy and commitment to public service and to their fellow employees, fellow colleagues, as well as the general public. And so with that, I just want to say thank you all very, very much. You've made us proud, quite frankly, in the executive office, and I'm sure the trustees feel the same way. So with that, I'll leave it back to the chair.
Chair Robbins?
Thank you very much. I don't think I can improve on any of the comments that have been made. It's going to be a challenging year, and to those people impacted by the fires and the upcoming floods, it's going to be more than a challenging year. So having said that, I think we had some good discussion though today, and probably some good fodder for the offsite. So with a lot of new faces on the boards, should be a fun offsite. So with that, let's take a 15-minute break and we'll come back in closed session for disability applications.